next 15 minutes, we're going to have a nice case study with Navitaire, led by, I think, Giovanni Simoni. I don't know if Giovanni is here. And we have with him Tanner Huysman, head of Ancillaries. Well, here they are. Stage is yours.
Pleased to meet you.
Have a good session. Cheers.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here on the stage of the World Aviation Festival. It's an honor, so thanks a lot for being here. I'm here with Tanner, old friend, partner, and Tanner, do you want to introduce a little bit of yourself?
Sure.
And your role in Vueling?
Sure. I'm Tanner Huysman. I'm the Director of E-commerce, Ancillaries, and Loyalty at Vueling. As you can tell by the accent, definitely American. I moved over to Barcelona about 2.5 years ago. And so it's really interesting. If you don't know Vueling, by the way, we are part of the IAG group, along with British Airways, Aer Lingus, Iberia, and Level. And so we are the low cost of the group in particular, with a massive presence in Spain, with Barcelona, El Prat as our hub, and obviously a large focus as well across EMEA and London Gatwick, Paris Orly, some of our focus markets.
Excellent. I am Giovanni Simone. I'm from Navitaire. I'm the regional head of EMEA. And we've been partnering with Vueling since their birth, so year 2000. So first of all, I wanted also to wish Vueling a happy 20th birthday and future success ahead in the next decades. So it's a pleasure to be here. So we are about to talk about the vital role of data for digital airlines. Clearly, Vueling is a digital airline. Innovation is at the core of their business. So the first question, Tanner, is how are you using data to enhance customer experience, and how are you using data and planning to use data to improve customer satisfaction in this direction?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of elements, and you talk about it, and I think that there's kind of a journey as being a younger airline, only kind of 20 years old, which if you look at obviously carriers out, even here in this space, that's a relatively young airline in terms of it. So we were one of the first airline actually in Europe to kind of have the Apple Watch boarding pass and things like that. So innovation's kind of in our DNA, and so as you think about how we use data as airlines, we have so much passenger data, and I think almost all of us only still use kind of 10-20% as we've talked about, and we're all getting into that journey together. But we're effectively starting to use that 10-20% that's the most meaningful overall. And so when we look at it and we talk about the passenger experience, obviously we all do net promoter scores, we look at these individual elements, but we're starting to use these larger data clusters to understand where those problems are existing. And so that can be digital friction points, so for example, our partners at Quantum Metric and looking at the website and where these individual friction points are occurring, things that you have no idea, using the AI, kind of summaries to understand these sessions look like each other, and here's where these kind of fall-off points are. And so we look at everything from that digital experience to the physical experience in terms of Net Promoter Score and seeing what's impacting our guests, and then dive into that in a more granular detail using AI and machine learning to really understand what's the crux of those issues and how we can solve them. For us, we talk a lot about kind of value equals experience divided by price, and it's kind of interesting as I have the ancillaries hat on and the e-commerce and loyalty hat on, along with our partners in the customer side. We have to ensure that we also are really focusing on that experience aspect overall as being a low-cost carrier, within the group, candidly, but obviously as our competition is also thinking around those elements.
Okay, and do you have a specific use case you would like to talk about that you recently worked on using data to improve customer experience?
Yeah, I think if we're talking about the travel journey, I think what we've really started to do is actually kind of personalize that travel journey more and more. And so I think as you look and see what people are actually already buying and what they've bought in the past, we're creating more of these micro-segmentation clusters, and we're moving to that one-to-one personalization. So we utilize technology that populates our emails with real-time content. And so one of the things that's really unique as part of that kind of traveler journey is actually even in the beginning stage. If you know that somebody is typically interested in this particular type of destination, whether it's beach for us or very specific kind of cadences, is we're using that to go and target them and segment them and say, hey, listen, these are 3 things that you might actually like in addition to kind of your core headline banner. And that's very personalized. It's stitching an image together in real time for them, actually from a database of images with text, their name, those types of things in real time, and to be able to give them the price point for those particular destinations. And then you talk about, kind of on the flip side, it's sometimes it's the simple cases where, we have data, we know what the weather is, we know what's going on. Right as they're getting ready to actually, pack their bags, we're obviously telling them, hey, if you need more bags, buy those. But it's telling them what the weather is, so they don't have to go look it up because they're already in the middle of, kind of freaking out about checking in. And, it's not the most stress-free process to travel these days. We all know that. So it's how do we kind of make that process better and give that value add for our guests as part of a digital kind of and seamless journey all the way through.
Okay, excellent. You mentioned AI. Sorry, just a parenthesis for the mobile, the boarding pass on the Apple Watch.
Yep.
Vueling won an innovation award at the Navitaire customer conference a few years ago as well for the facial recognition. They were one of the first to use that. So again, kudos to Vueling. You mentioned AI and machine learning that you use extensively, as we understand, to use the data exactly to improve customer experience. Do you want to give us some more details on how you use that? Because clearly AI is becoming, generative AI is becoming one of the key, not only buzzwords, but reality in this industry, right?
Yeah, it is the buzzword, and we all sit here and talk about it. And there's so many different use cases, and whether you want to, unleash it fully on the world or use it, and then it's, kind of co-pilot. We think about it in many ways as a co-pilot, and so, we're not ready to fully release it, in terms of, just straight up giving that one-to-one without any kind of guidance whatsoever. Hallucinations still exist. Those types of things are you have to be very thoughtful of. And so, when we think about just, utilizing AI, we also utilize it in cases where we're not thinking around, what are the, implications of this, in the sense that, like, one of the use cases we've talked about recently is working with our partners at Aena to be able to better understand what's happening at our kiosks. And so when you think about the traditional kind of kiosk analytics, and when you're tracking to try to understand the throughput of how quickly you can get guests through that operational period, you're typically looking at utilizing something like your Google Analytics or some type of analytics software on the kiosk, so that you can understand the session and what's happening and occurring there. But what people kind of miss as part of that is that's not really actually what you're looking at in terms of trying to understand how many kiosks you need to do. We talk about airport real estate as the most expensive real estate in the world. And so when we have kiosks and things like that, we have to kind of plan for obviously those peak periods and make sure we have enough kiosks so we don't push people to a line and there's not, that queuing and that bad experience. So we're talking about how do we utilize AI in better ways to anonymize passengers and individuals who are taking the dwell time, as we call it, at a kiosk. So that's one of the use cases that we've got hopefully coming up soon, so that we can understand it's not just when they finish the kiosk transaction, it's the extra 3 to 4 minutes that it takes them to apply a bag tag to that bag and make sure they understand it and apply it correctly, and then take it to a bag drop. So it's not just the transaction time, which we've typically looked at as airlines, where we say, oh, well, they get done with a kiosk transaction in 2.5 minutes. So if I take that and divide by my passengers and look at this kind of, peaks, troughs, and valleys, it's saying, no, they stand in front of that kiosk for an extra 3 minutes trying to figure out how to put on a bag tag. And so it's kind of blending that physical and digital world and using AI to give us insights that, we historically, you'd have somebody out there kind of timing people. You can't get a good survey sample from that. And so where are those use cases where it's also very, very easy and it doesn't have any implications in terms of, kind of unleashing it on the world? It's ways it can just be a co-pilot and help you create some true insights that can help you as an operation as well to give a better experience.
Okay, so you see there is a positive effect on the AI on your business, on a daily business.
Absolutely, and so I'm extremely lucky to kind of be part of IAG, and so the International Airlines Group is always looking at how we kind of continue to advance technology and innovation within all of the opcos, and so one of the things that has kind of spun up over the last year or so has been IAG AI, which is really a division specifically focused to using using AI and machine learning across all of the airlines and across all of the groups to really, we kind of talk about, the crawl, walk, run, and then we talk about fly problems. Everything from those run to fly problems, kind of going in parallel that can go across the group. We think about how do we leverage that. It's one of the advantages we have as being a group. And so they're working on those elements in addition to each of us having innovation shops within our individual airlines so that we can partner together and make sure we're thinking about future states that are the much harder use cases, as well as some of the easier ones that we do with AI now. So yeah, it's really unique and something that we have already seen a large amount of progress in internally. So for instance, one of the things that, just a quick anecdote on it is our agents answering questions. You typically have your kind of, EGR, electronic general reference guide where they have to go look up if they don't know an answer offhand because it's not something that they get a question asked a lot. We've integrated, a custom GPT model into that for our agents to ask it a question so they can quickly give that answer to a guest if they're calling us, if they've made that choice to call us and ask a particular question as opposed to the electronic means.
And this obviously also increases the NPS, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We continue to see large increases in Net Promoter Score as we improve our experience overall. And I really think that as we continue to digitize and make this experience easier for guests, particularly those who haven't flown you before, especially in our direct channels, it's only going to continue to improve as we use AI to better message and merchandise to our customers what they care about.
Okay. Question, do you share these initiatives across the IAG airlines? Because obviously also IAG built recently this center right in Barcelona for these type of activities. Are you sharing across all the Aer Lingus and Iberia, British Airways, what you learn?
We are, and so that's kind of the big advantage is that we can share that across all of the airlines overall. So there's individual work cases that happen if it's something that's not necessarily a use case that works kind of across the group, but those learnings are consistently shared at kind of across all of our groups in terms of if it might be something that comes out of it that can be utilized across the group as a whole or for one of the other operating companies.
Okay. One of the things that came up the other day on a panel with Julio Rodriguez from IAG was digital data is better than previous data, which was more, let's say, well, I wouldn't call it analogic, but less digital, so there is less granularity and less accuracy. Do you find also that data is in one place, or it's easy for you to access, or it's spread across different databases and silos, and so you're finding it complex to access to?
I think it's an interesting topic, and we talk a lot about this, with our partners overall. And so, we've got access to so much data from so many different elements. And so, it's one of the things that, if you look at that, I don't think anybody has kind of, gotten to a great point with that. We talked a lot about it in the panel yesterday, and I think it was Shafani from Emirates was talking about getting that golden profile, that 360-degree view, takes some time. I do think that there's still areas where we don't necessarily pipe that data in quite as good as we could. But that is, again, partially because there is so much data. You have to determine what you really want to take into those profiles and what makes sense and what doesn't. And so you want to make sure that you're not overwhelming that in terms of use cases first. You want to make sure that you go and attack that for things that are actually going to drive value overall. So I think we've got a decent start on that, but there's a lot more that we can continue to do. And so as we look at utilizing a customer data platform more effectively throughout the next year and things like that, those are going to give us that more granular view so that we can truly provide more value-added, personalized experiences for the guest.
Okay. Question on sustainability. Obviously, it's another big topic in the industry these days. Not only a buzzword, but also there is huge activities around that. Airline groups are building teams on sustainability. We also have one. IAG has one. So,
yeah.
How are you using data to achieve your sustainability targets and improve your operational efficiency or things like those?
Yeah, IAG is committed to net zero, emissions by 2050, and so we're already well on the path with that. And so we use a lot of sustainable aviation fuel and are continuing to find innovative partners in that space and kind of grow that area. But I think there's other things that we're doing, obviously, as we kind of talk about it from machine learning and other elements. We're working with Eurocontrol along with some others on how do we optimize the routings and things things like that in order to improve efficiency of the actual aircraft routings around weather, different, kind of flyover routes and things, so that we can, one, effectively load the right amount of fuel, not over tanker and things like that, and to make sure that we're taking the most efficient route for the conditions that are there. And so I know there's already been some exploration within that has, for certain routes, shown, decreases up to 10% in terms of the overall emissions. So there's a lot of progress that's happening in the industry utilizing these technologies where you can take that big data together from that to be able to really improve upon the sustainability framework that we have and make sure that we're driving towards that goal of net zero emissions as an industry.
Okay, perfect. Last question, as Vueling achieved its 20th birthday and you look forward to the next decades of business evolution, how do you see the use of data in the future? So what do you see in the next 2-3 years? Because there is obviously the discussion about offer-order, NDC interline, airlines becoming more digital. We clearly know that IAG and especially Vueling are targeting 100% digital sales. So
yeah.
How do you see the evolution of data usage in this context for the next few years? Because things change with a dramatic rhythm. So saying something now might be not the same in 2-3 years. What is your overview?
I mean, when you look back, we've all talked about personalization for the last, 5 years, 6 years, whatever it's been. AI has kind of become the buzzword. I predict in the next 2 years we'll all be talking about, quantum computing. But when you look at it realistically, I think we all are continuing down that journey. As we've continued to get more and more along this, more and more data points have become available to us all, and so that's not going to end. There's going to continue to be more and more data points and more use cases that kind of continue. So for me, I think it's that we, as an industry, NDC for me is something I love. We talk about this a lot over cocktails. I think it really is the platform that allows you to choose, particularly, and make sure that you're giving the customer the right product for what they want in all omni-channel, a truly omni-channel experience across the distribution channels. And so for me, I think it's really how do you actually create and tie those things together as more and more people truly adopt the schema and we enhance that you're actually working together to continue to improve the schema and push those things forward. So I think it's going to continue to be that and using data better.
Okay, well, we achieved the 15 minutes. We filled it, the whole slot we had available. So thanks a lot again. Thanks, Tanner. Thanks, Vueling, for being here. And it's been fantastic talking to you.
Yeah, thank you.
See you soon.